So this is a video tutorial on how to enlarge your exam um, for a student with a visual impairment. So first let's go over the types of things a student with a visual impairment might encounter. So this is a basic GRE sample test that I downloaded off the internet, and I've cleaned up a bit just to remove any excess pages. As you can see, it's got a few questions, and it looks similar to how most exams that you give probably would look. So for a student who has a visual impairment, you'd likely receive a letter of accommodation with a font size. Students with low vision tend to use one of a few tools to help them see. Um, the first might be a screen magnifier on the computer itself. So most computers are built with a magnifier app, and they tend to have these at least 200 to 300 level. So when they look at your page, this is literally what they're seeing. They're seeing just a small snapshot of the entire page. And in many cases, depending on the severity of the disability, they may be viewing this even further and really reading your exam, you know, word by word or phrase by phrase. There are other tools that mimic this, such as hand magnifiers for a printed exam, or a CCTV, which they make in portable sizes now, which is a digital version of a hand magnifier and allows the user to adjust contrast. Um, but in most cases, a student with a visual impairment, their scope of what they're able to see on the page is going to be very limited, which is why, when we look at how we enlarge this exam, it isn't just about font size, but how the exam itself is laid out. And so what I've done is, most of you probably will be starting in a Word document, and this is just the Word document that I downloaded offline. The first thing you're going to want to do is use these style guides and use these Microsoft tools. These are your best friends. So instead of numbering your questions by using spaces or by using the tab, what you're going to do is you're going to use these numbers, and you're going to make sure that they're properly numbered. For students who are completely blind, they use a special tool called a screen reader. And when you use these tools, when they read it with their computer, it will properly identify that this is a ordered list and this is item A, quantity A is greater, item B, quantity B is greater, and so on and so forth. We'll get into that in another video. However, for the purpose of this one, we'll stick with just how to enlarge your exam appropriately. So for this question here, what I've done is I've just highlighted the text, and I've used our tool. Pretty simple so far. And as many of you have probably guessed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight everything, and I'm going to increase the font. So on your letter of accommodation, it should say that the student may need 20-point font. Now, there's some stuff to consider here. So for this question, things kind of for the most part formatted nicely. You can see the image here didn't increase because that when we highlighted the thing, the images don't increase by increasing the font size. So in cases like that, you may want to manually increase images. And as you can see now, when we get to question 2, this text kind of falls off the page. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge everything to 20-point font. And now I'm going to go back and clean it up. And so be because a student with a visual impairment doesn't have the same luxury of being able to use their peripheral vision and be able to navigate from page to page easily, you're going to want to try to keep all questions and all the possible options on one page when necessary. Um, you're also going to want to make sure that your spacing in between lines, you've given yourself enough spacing. So for example, I don't want to completely remove all spacing, um, because what that will do is, it will make it, and it looks like this is already set at 0. Um, it will make it more difficult the closer the text is to each other for a student with a visual impairment to see. So in this case, this is an image, and so I'm going to increase this size to allow them to see. Likewise with this image. In this case, what you can see is because this was formatted for a student with a who uses a screen reader, what they've also done is they've written out the long text description of that math problem, um, which is one thing you can do for a student who is blind. In this case, though, we're formatting this for a student with a visual impairment who just has low vision. And so we'll get to that again in another video. And this looks okay. All of our options are all on one page, and we can see question 3 now gets cut off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my enter key to make that on one page. Um, Likewise, sometimes the formatting of this text gets off. You're going to want to make sure that the formatting is correct. So as a student is viewing this, they can see that there is an option A, and this is the answer that relates to option A. Um, and you just want to go through your exam and make sure everything is formatted in a way that is organized and in a way that the student is able to see all the elements in that exam. And that in a nutshell is how we format an exam using Word um, to enlarge the font. If you have any questions, feel free to contact your local Office of Disability Services.